Hi, I'm Maria Lloyd, owner of IDaily.com and a member of Your Black Women. And so I wanted to discuss some recent remarks that were rather disturbing to me that came from Spike Lee. Now, first off, I want to preface this criticism of Spike by saying that I admire him. I'm actually quite a fan of a number of his films. He is an alum of Morehouse College, which is part of the Atlanta University Center. I am an alum of Clark Atlanta University, which is part of the AUC. He actually was taught by a professor at Clark Atlanta University. A lot of people don't know that, but Dr. Eichelberger, we call him Dr. E. Dr. E was one of Spike Lee's mentors. He kind of taught him the ropes of filming and things. So I'm saying all of that to say, I respect Spike Lee. Generally speaking, I have always been in agreement with, a lot of the things he said. However, his recent remarks with regard to violence or so-called black on black crime are very troubling to me. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of play a clip of his recent interview with Anderson Cooper, where he kind of talks about this, what he calls self-inflicted genocide. So let's listen to it very quickly.
No one's saying nothing. It's got to be both ends.
It's not enough to focus on Black Lives Matter movement, on
I tell you, can focus on it, but
police brutality.
But you can't ignore we're killing ourselves too.
We're killing ourselves too. We're killing ourselves too. So this is a very popular conversation this year. Of course, Richard Sherman made very similar remarks. Stephen A. Smith, of course, has made similar remarks. All of these black celebrities seem to want to kind of focus on this one-sided, what I like to call a lopsided accountability rhetoric. Okay, so it's black folks, you need to do better. You're the problem. You're the one who's pulling the trigger. It's always the black folks. We just gonna forget about the centuries of systemic oppression. The fact that someone from the CDC, a whistleblower, has come forth and admitted that vaccinations that poor black mothers were given when they were pregnant have actually contributed to a spike in autism in black children. We're just gonna forget about the school to prison pipeline. We're gonna forget about redlining. We're gonna forget about the fact that black men are given 20% longer sentences than white men for the same crime. We're gonna forget about the centuries of wealth that were stolen from black people as a result of slavery and free labor that came from slavery. We're going to forget about the centuries of wealth that was stolen from black people after slavery, right? Due to systemic discrimination at the workplace, where, the whole concept of a glass ceiling, I'm quite sure that phrase, that word was created as a result of black people being, stopped at a certain point in their career because they were black, right? So we're going to forget about that. We're going to forget about the forced illiteracy where, if you were caught reading, you were essentially, tortured. We're going to forget about the fact that our education system, our public schools in particular, have a piss poor track record. Chicago public schools alone, there are so many students who their parents should be arrested or fined for truancy. It's unreal. It's been an issue. There have been articles written about the fact that the school is actually missing out on money that could very well be collected as a result of truancy. So we're just going to forget about all of that. And we're just going to deduce the violence in Chicago and in other cities throughout America to black on black crime, to the fact that somehow black folks just innately hate ourselves so much that we just want to pull the trigger. Look, I have grown pretty tired of this one-sided, lopsided accountability conversation. Black celebrities, if you don't have the gumption or the strength or the courage to come forth and discuss racism in a broader context, because, let's make it clear here, it's not just black folks are screwed up, we're just dysfunctional, right? We can't possibly agree that we're just screwed up more than any other demographic in this country. Something is wrong with black people and black people alone. We just can't, I'm just not buying it, right? Anyone with an ounce of intelligence knows that just makes no sense. There's no logic in that assumption or that assessment of the plights that black people face. So what's interesting to me is that we don't talk about white on black crime, right? And how that affects us. I guess we somehow believe that crime is just, It's just essentially when a black person pulls a gun out on another black person. Again, this is not to say that, so-called black on black crime is not a problem. It is a problem, right? But why is it a problem? How was it started? And who is kind of working the strings, if you will, pulling the strings, if you will, in the background to kind of create this environment in which a Tyshawn or the little girl named Heaven would be shot and killed, right? How do these things come to fruition? Do we really want to believe that black people are just, I don't know, fundamentally flawed? That we just are born screwed up? We just hate ourselves so much. It's so ingrained in our DNA to hate ourselves so much that we just want to blow each other's heads off. Is that what you guys want to believe? And it's infuriating because I live in Chicago. I've had this conversation with so many people, the so-called black on black crime conversation. I've had this conversation with so many people where they're like, well, they just need to stop shooting each other. Well, I mean, maybe if we can get the cops to stop bringing drugs into the neighborhoods, that would help. Maybe if we can stop the cops from putting guns in the hands of these teenagers, that would help. Perhaps if we could, stop budget cuts that would aid youth for after-school programs and things like that would keep them busy, that would help. Perhaps, oh my gosh, just perhaps, if we could reduce that, 90% unemployment rate amongst young black teenagers in Chicago, mostly black young boys, perhaps if we could reduce that, what do you know? The crime would probably go down. I mean, we're living in the information age, right? There's no excuse for this level of ignorance that is spewed when it comes to this conversation about so-called black on black crime. We know exactly what the problems are. And I can tell you right now, the problems have nothing to do with some innate flaw that's in all black people that we just want to blow each other's heads off. The problems are systemic. They're systematic, people, okay? It's a systemic flaw. There is something fundamentally wrong with our system that we would send children to prison before we try to help them learn how to read better. There's something wrong with our system that a black man who goes before a judge and a jury for committing the same crime that a white man commits gets a 20% longer sentence than a white man. That is something wrong systemically. So please, before we talk about, or if we're going to talk about black on black violence, please also address white on black violence, because black on black violence pales in comparison to white on black violence. So let's talk about that.